Thank you guys so much for being here with us today on AGA Podcast. This is John, Sepp, and Brittany Masters of Roam Free Ranch. Do you guys want to give a little background on your ranch and where you got started?
Yeah. John, maybe you should start, or do you want me to tell your story?
Oh, you tell it.
Okay. Well, let's see. John was in the Air Force. He went to the Air Force Academy, and then just before separating, decided he wanted to be a bison rancher when he was done in the military, and basically, bought some bare land in Montana and started a bison ranch. I came a few years after he had really built it up, and that's sort of the origin story.
Yeah, that would have been about 10 years ago that we started it. And I was just having a very hard time making it work. I bought just 240 acres here. When I very first started, it was all I could afford. And that's not enough to really make a go at ranching whatsoever here in Montana. So just struggling through it, trying to find, my way into it as well without inheritance and doing those things. When I met Brittany, she had been working in brand marketing with Boeing for also about 10 years. And I did initially set up some of the infrastructure and buy some of the first bison at that time. Of course, we've grown a lot since then, both with the brand and the ranch. And it really took a equal team effort of both building the ranch and land component animals as well as the outlet for the animals at a higher margin that we could retain. And they both grew synonymously with each other. It's very hard nowadays to start a ranch without inheritance and just pay for it and grow it simply through the sale of animals. Those days are kind of gone. It doesn't really exist that you're going to be growing land base and operations that way, not without incurring enormous amounts of debt that you may or may not pay back. It's a huge risk and gamble. Not that having a brand isn't either, but it was a faster way to the end of our goals to be able to get to where we are now. And so, when I first met Britt, I explained what was going on. And the first thing we did was take about a 6-month break from business and build a brand for the outlet for the ranch. And that's where we started from, created a thesis, and spent the last number of years growing it from there.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's great to hear. I mean, we're very proud to say you guys are AGA producers. What sustainable farming practices are important for your operations as a grass-fed producer?
I'd say the most important thing is just having bison, honestly. I mean, we do a lot of different practices, regenerative agriculture. We're out there with a team of about, 6 people just focused on the ag operation. But at the end of the day, introducing, bison back to the ecosystem, I think is the most important thing that we've done. And that incurs a lot more effort, obviously. Putting in infrastructure for bison has been quite the effort.
Yeah, also in the practices and just in terms, I think you're asking even about practices, which would be, to me, not just the regenerative or, before they called it regenerative, we were rotational grazing, or there was holistic management. They called it that for a while. It's had lots of different names, and people have, found out over the years that the more intensively you can graze animals for a shorter period of time with longer periods of rest, that concept has continued to get boiled down. And Brittany's, I feel, right. And we both feel very strongly that, especially with American native prairie grasses, bison are the key component to optimally grazing those native grasses in those confined settings, pasture to pasture, long rests. That's, to us, kind of the core of our business. And, it's a simple concept, obviously extremely difficult to not just execute, but execute in a way that is financially viable. We've built hundreds of miles of fence. We've had to build a fencing company just to build more fence. The water distribution for animals to be able to drink pasture to pasture, those are huge hurdles for somebody that's entering that system to overcome. It's a large amount of cash up front, but definitely the most vital, if you're going to invest for the long term, for what the consumer wants, what's best and what we believe for the ground and best for the animal.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that kind of leads into my next question is how do you ensure the quality and consistency of your grass-fed products year round, considering the seasonal nature of pasture availability?
It's you're never going to get the same product that's consistent year round. It's just what happens with a non-finished system. We don't try to when we harvest in season, when you either have just post starch changes in grass, whether it's going to be late spring or early fall, we feel like those two cold and warm season grasses coming up are the best times that you're going to get quality grass-fed meat every time, in terms of what's going to be closest to a flavor that might meet a more traditional palate, or I guess what somebody would call traditional, which is, if you're trying to compete with grain. But it's just really not something that we are trying to compete with. Part of the reason that we started our own brand was to control the outcome of our products as well, rather than just handing them off to brands that cook and do whatever they want with them, whatever format that meat may end in. And so we spend a lot of time, regardless of the season that we process animals in, making recipes and making pre-cooked food that takes the guesswork out of the cooking process for the customer, so they can have the optimal taste prepared for them, which a lot of times will help encourage better buying habits and behaviors long term. It opens up new markets for them when they realize these things do taste good.
Yeah, I mean, it's intentionally seasonal, right? Like we are still a very seasonal business, but we hold back pretty much. We process 1 to 2 times a year, and then we'll freeze the meat and use it throughout the year for our products. And so it's a lot of, forecasting, trying to figure out what customers are going to buy and who's going to want what. And then just managing the whole carcass. So like whole carcass utilization is huge for us. We have to have a number of different products so that we can use all the cuts of the animal, and sort of optimize the return on every cut. So it's sort of been built into our business plan to be a seasonal business.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I totally understand what you're saying with that. How do you foresee the future of grass-fed farming evolving, and what steps are you taking to adapt or shape these changes?
Gosh, I mean, I think obviously it's growing. I mean, the grass-fed market is growing the worldwide, and obviously in the United States. My desire for the grass-fed market is that it will expand here in the United States. So most of grass-fed, specifically beef, is coming, not from the United States. It's coming from outside. I think it's like 95% of the grass-fed beef that people eat in the US is actually from outside of the US. And we're really big on regenerative agriculture because it's restoring the ecosystem. And our number one most endangered ecosystem is native prairie, and that's right here in the United States. And it only helps if you're buying American grass-fed beef or American grass-fed bison from the United States. You're not really preserving your own backyard if you're purchasing it from outside of the US. So my goal and intention for everything we do is to help expand the grass-fed market here at home.
I was just going to add that I also think, like, I see verifications being a big thing. People want to know how much, and the consumer obviously is going to be smart enough to know not everything is the same. So they want to know what is the best that I can get for the best price always, in any kind of shopping they're going to do. And I think there's going to be more verification systems that involve more technology as that involves. A great example is we just installed some very interesting first generation GPS tags that monitor a lot more than just an animal's location. And we're testing out a system with a company right now that lets us monitor heartbeats, sleep, rumination times, hotspots of grazing for managing grass, all sorts of very valuable tools, and it helps to stratify where somebody may be in that system. Whether are you just starting out? Are you trying to hit, are you making 99.1 protein, and how can I know that you're doing that beyond just something that seems like the taste is so similar? What are the health benefits between that, comparison that I may be getting, and being able to offer that information, the nutrient density of foods, measuring those things. We see all of that coming down the pipe as technology gets better, that those will be stratifying elements for consumers to choose foods based on where they want to be in that.
Yeah, that's super exciting to hear that there's like technology out there being put into place for that. Because I do think it's like such a huge talked about topic, and people are just getting more and more conscious of the products that they're consuming. So that's awesome to hear that you guys are tapping into those. Can you guys share a success story or a particular achievement that your farm has accomplished due to commitment to grass-fed practices?
I mean, I think it's been, 100 small things that have added up to us basically continuing to ranch and continuing to keep it all afloat. I think probably the biggest accomplishment that we've had is getting our products into Costco, honestly. I mean, that it has changed our business. And they've been great partners in that. And so, having people be able to see and buy and consume, products, in a bigger way than what we could do just with our local market has been a huge win for us.
Yeah, and other producers at a national level to be able to source animals to grow other ranches that have similar or the same as practices as us, or some even better, and being able to cash enable them in large ways, ourselves included. It's the consumer does drive the end result of what people create. And so it's nice to see that verification, if you will, that this is the demand is creating a greater supply. And when I started 10 years ago, you'd be hard pressed to, maybe source enough to build a product, at least within bison, to serve one small state in the United States, let alone say everything west of the Mississippi. That's a decade's time. The supply chain has grown immensely, and obviously with bison, I can't buy or source anything from overseas. It's all coming right here from North America, and we buy everything from the United States right now. So, to see that change within just 10 years time, that's a good sign, despite a lot of obstacles that people are facing in attaining enough ground to have volumed ranches, that exist within the grass-fed sphere, which I think encompasses a lot of things, not just grass-fed. It kind of has, there's other things that come with that ethos of people that are already participating there. There's other practices that are positive within that too.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to hear you guys speak a little bit more to your guys' product. I love your branding so much and all the unique flavors. If you want to talk a little to that and how you came up with the different flavor profiles and everything, I would love to hear.
Yeah, so we really have two different product lines. Well, actually three, if you count some of the fresh stuff that we're doing. But we started with our smoked business, which is really just a chopped and formed bison meat snack. And I mean, it was so long ago now. We came up with the flavors in our kitchen. We both of John and I traveled quite a bit before starting this business and had seen a lot of different places. And I was traveling for work all the time, to some foreign places I just didn't want to eat the meat in, to be quite honest. So I'd make my own jerky and bring it with me and try to incorporate some of those flavors, of the places I was visiting. And, drew on that inspiration kind of when we started our business. But we just really felt like people were tired of the teriyaki and the regular, thing.
Barbecue and spicy.
And we wanted to make it fun. We have a wood-fired pizza that simply came because I'm dairy free and can't have real pizza, so I made a pizza flavor. And those are the first products that we did. We also have a whole muscle jerky as well. And then in 21, we launched our ready to eat or just heat and serve food line. And most of those products are prepared sous vide. And that was back to our conversation about seasonal, really important because we did have a seasonal product and we wanted to take the guesswork out of it for our customers. So cooking bison, cooking seasonal lean proteins, can be sort of daunting for the average customer that isn't prepared to cook at home, like gourmet meals. And so we found a sous vide partner that was willing to work with us on a whole carcass program, which was, a big challenge in and of itself. And we came out with sort of a couple different products that we really liked after working with their R&D department. So it was a complete team effort in making those, come to reality. And we have a great chef partner on our team. Tom Douglas is his name. He's a chef and restaurateur in the Seattle area, and he kind of helped kick off our very first ready to eat recipe. And it's still our #1 seller. So it's been a great program.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I said, I loved like all the branding and the unique flavors. That's a really good take on it. I think it's definitely appetizing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Do you feel like the AGA certification really benefits you to a consumer when they're about to purchase your product? Like, do you have kind of anything to speak to that?
I was going to say, I think it's kind of the only one that we maintain. It's actually the only certification that we maintain that we feel is important. And there's so many out there. We could even get regenerative, we could get organic, we could get all of them from the real basis of science of what's going to change meat and ground. We feel like AGA is the certifying symbol, and anybody that's researched it deeply will know that. Not to say that the other things aren't well-intentioned or necessarily important, maybe for other businesses. AGA, like I had said earlier, encompasses a lot of other practices, but is the fundamental biggest requirement, because somebody could say, well, I'm regenerative, but not necessarily grass-fed. And that means, oh, great, you're just canceling out. It's a 1-for-1. And probably, a lot of brands that we see are just using certain labels without, using the halo effect of a label without having to do any real boots on the ground type things that make real differences, whether it be in the health of the animal, consumer, or ground. AGA is the reason we maintain it is because it has a change in all of those. So I guess to answer your question, it's the only one we keep because we feel for those reasons it's the most important.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're super happy to hear that and totally appreciate you guys supporting as well.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing. It's one of the only that's not a pay to play.
Yeah.
I mean, you pay what it costs to get the certification and they keep the program running, but it's not you gotta, shell out an extra, you don't have to get any more revenue from customers in order to pay for your certification.
Right.
So it's a great program.
Great. Well, I thank you guys so much for taking the time and just sharing your story with us. I love all the awesome points you guys touched on. Do you guys want to go ahead and share where we can find you in store and then follow along on social media?
Yeah, you can find us on our website. That's goroamfree.com. You can find us in select Costco's, natural grocers, and Sprouts. But most importantly, we are launching a guest ranch in June. So you can find us right here at our own ranch if you'd like. We're super excited to kind of open the gates of the ranch and let our customers come and actually see where their food is made and get to experience and even participate in regenerative agriculture in a really, really cool way. And so if anything, our experience is called the Hightail. And so it is still the Roam Free team, but it's our flagship ranch where we've built out a bunch of cabins and a restaurant and an awesome guest experience we can't wait to share. So you can find us at thehightailranch.com.
Awesome. Congratulations on that. That sounds
Thank
super
you.
exciting.